Alrighty, how's it going, guys? Muse's gone now, and we'll just be going over kind of some base defense tips that may have been brushed over earlier, or kind of more new concepts, especially if you haven't really done a lot of defenses in your past and you're not really sure what to do. This may still help you if you are being attacked, if you still have some time to kill before the attack lands. This is the stuff I would ordinarily do and check before anything happens. The first thing I'd go, and this is something it's kind of hard to do retroactively, so I'll kind of start with it, is just making sure you're constantly spying your enemy. By spying your enemy, you know how big their fleets are. More often than not, you like. It may be hard to say who's your enemy, but like you often know, you have a suspicion, especially if there's another alliance, especially if your alliance leader is called Alliance Red. Always be spying those guys, keeping good tabs on them, recognizing what they have. Earlier when they're attacking in the fob, we knew that they can't bomb us, so why should we worry about that? That stuff's really good information. Also, whenever you have an attack incoming, a lot of times people will send fake attacks at you. If you've spied before they send the fake attack, and then they attack you, and you spy them again, you realize, oh, almost all of his ships are still there. More than likely, that's a fake attack, and that way you don't have to panic. So that would relieve a lot of stress. If you're able to currently, like if you have an attack incoming, go ahead and spy that station, see if there's any ships left in that station. It may be there was never really any ships there, but if you do see ships there, you can basically bank on that being a fake attack. Or at least one you don't have to worry about. The next part that I didn't really get to mention, so I want to bring up now, is tactics. It's not something we really talked about, but it still does play a part of the game. These tactics kind of are giving you rock, paper, scissors to get, as you see here, kind of plus 15% damage to the fight. The only way to really see the tactics is after a fight, so it's really hard. If this is the first attack incoming, don't worry about the tactics really. It's completely random. You really don't have much of a choice there. However, if they have attacked, and we can kind of go here and check this combat report here, we'll be able to see that he was using pincer and I was using turtling. It says we both got plus 0%, but that could be a bug right now or whatever's going on. Turtling is superior flanking. So what we want to do after seeing this first attack came in, and after that first attack came in my example, I probably should have done this, is you go from pincer, he has pincer, you're going to go ahead and switch to flanking. It takes 8 hours to fully make this effect. If you have the 2 command cards, it might be worth it. It's a game of percentages and small margins a lot of times. If you think you need the extra 15% damage, go ahead and rush that. I don't think I have any at the time being, or I would. That's kind of the basic of tactics. It's just rock, paper, scissors, as simple as that. If you can help it, definitely do it. Next on the list would be making sure you have enough scan strength to actually see an incoming attack. This can be kind of hard to tell. The way I know, like you can kind of hover over to see 300, but it's kind of hard to tell what an attacking fleet might have. Ordinarily, if you're sending normal stuff without scouts, you're going to be able to see it. I think these have really low base scan strengths, or being able to see them. You'll always be able to see these basic attacks, really. However, you won't be able to see sabotage movements incoming because recon fleets and scout fleets have much higher base stealth. Whether it's building this building like I did so that we could see this one right here, and all the buildings may change, all the stats may change, so don't take any of that for granted, but just knowing that there's buildings out there that do increase the station scan strength by 20 per level. So you're kind of getting up there. That's how I have the scan strength that I do. Another way would be actually probing your own stations. I think Branks is coming out with some videos talk more about scanning and probing and all that kind of stuff. Definitely check that out. But basically, it's just taking your scout or your recon fleet and sending it to scan here like you would for a mission, and giving it applied scan strength here. That might be the other effective way if you know something's coming in. Also, you can probe the enemy's fleet, the enemy's location. If you probe there, you can see anything going in and out. That way, if they're deploying more fleets here, or if they were deploying bombers here, I'd be able to know. Always probe, always spy. Don't doubt the intelligence game. Make sure if you're running an alliance, someone has that in their alliance. And if no one's doing it in your alliance, step up and be like, hey, I'll start coordinating this. Make sure everyone's using their spies constantly. So after tactics, after scan strength, I kind of want to get in a little bit more to missile battery stacking. This is something you'll see often, and there's some things we didn't really talk about. That if someone's being lazy, you can definitely take advantage of. Missile battery stacking can only be done 2 on one station one time, because you're doing it with this Empire Unique Building to get the extra output slot. That allows a tier 2 outpost. So we're able to do the 2 missile batteries. You'll only be able to do this in one. Highly recommended doing it on something like a Grand Terrestrial Planet, which is a strategic point, or any other strategic points you're really worried about. Another thing is the logistics hub, being able to stack this and be able to have twice the amount of operating fleets as you're allowed to have. So as you can see, there's a kind of a cap here. At some point later in the game, you will be starting to hit these caps, and you'll be getting attacked by people hitting those caps. So being able to basically double that, in this case, add another 50%, is something that's really valid and will come to help you in the long run. We'll go ahead and go to policy and faction changes. So one big thing that may be make or break is what faction you're using. So we'll go ahead and go to these policies, and we'll kind of talk through what factions I might want to be if I'm being attacked. One big thing that's really helpful is having these different slots. You'll see kind of, if you're not too familiar, these are the military ones, domain ones, indie ones, and you have a wild card. So you can kind of see each one has limiting amounts. The least useful for defending is definitely these industrial ones. They're obviously industrial policies. They're not going to give you too much advantage. So anytime you can get more of these green policies, these military policies, that's a faction that's really helpful. MPL is a little bit different. It doesn't have any military policies. However, it does have stalwart defenders, and this is actually making your frigates much stronger. They'll be stronger than in defending, and this is only while defending. They'll be stronger than if you had gone Zayok and you put 3 policies. At least for now. Once again, all numbers could change. MPL is a nice one to use if you want to get that extra frigate defense. Now, it does only apply to frigates, of course, so that's where you're getting the downside, as instead if you'd been going Zayok or if you've been going Frontier Legion. Frontier Legion is your free option. This is kind of what I was running, and so I'm going to go through what policies I picked playing as Frontier Legion. This is a good overall around faction. You're getting some less time to produce corvettes and patrols, of course, getting some extra fleet strength XP, and some industry stuff never hurts. So here's the policies I've kind of chosen. The +1 radius, the influence of missile batteries, is actually how I was able to connect those 2 stations. And if you acknowledge this is a thing, later down the line, it can definitely help. If you're being attacked ever, it's easy to kind of just throw this on there. Obviously, the firepower for missile batteries really helping out, as you saw, is a huge amount. Even pretty much into mid-game, missile batteries hurt, like pretty late into mid-game. So you're constantly going to want that. There's Elite Navy here, and there's also a version which is giving you the same thing for firepower. Hit points and firepower is a lot of discussion what you should use. In general, if you think you're the bigger army, you should be using hit points because you'll last through the 3 rounds of combat. If you're going to lose this, you're going to want to use the extra firepower so you can kill as much things before you die. The land leasing, 6% labor in all stations. I just kind of threw that on there. It always helps to be able to fleet more things. Gemini Express, industrial fleet speed. Once again, I told you industrial ones aren't your best thing for defense, but I was hoping this would help with your missile battery defenses, repairing them, and defense doctrine. This one's the big one. If you level this one up more, it becomes much better. As you see, this is level 1. I believe this goes up. It's either firepower goes up or the negative firepower for attacking goes down. I want to say it's extra firepower when defending, but I'm not too sure on it. Once again, everything may change anyways, so just know this is kind of here, and this is obviously what you want to kind of put on if you're being attacked. Make sure that's on there. We'll go ahead, and that's kind of most of the policies. There are a few more that you could definitely argue should be on, but this is just a general decent layout here. You won't be hurting if you got that. We'll go ahead now down to cards. Carding your fleets is something that's very underrated, and it needs to be taken way more seriously by the more casual players. A lot of times people push really hard for influence. You're thinking, oh man, I need to have more influence so I can show up higher on the scoreboard. If you don't have anything to protect those numbers, it's not going to do you any good to be that high up in the leaderboards, because someone will just come wipe you out and then you're at the bottom of the leaderboard. So what I recommend doing is making sure you have some of these cards. The cards I have on this station would be the minefield cards. These ones are giving your missile battery plus 8,000 firepower. I should have actually had this when he was attacking. I would have done even more damage, so that I didn't catch that in there. I originally had it there. I deleted the station, had to redo it. But have these minefield cards. These are fantastic. They go in those 2 slots. Basically, whatever else you have, I don't think there's anything too crazy in these other ones. Maybe some extra speed, stuff like that. There may be still a station character slot that gives you some extra firepower for any operating fleets. That may be there, that may not be there. Look for stuff like that, obviously, if you're being attacked. And over here, we have Armed Garrison, which is +1 influence range to missile batteries. So that's how I was able to reach with this missile battery. They'd ordinarily only have a 2 range. But I was able to do +1 more because Armed Garrison and +1 more because of the policy I showed you guys just a second ago. This is something that's a purple card. It's going to cost a little bit more. If you're getting attacked and you need that extra influence, range of influence, buy it. Like, that's no question. I think it also gives you some... No, it doesn't actually give you any extra firepower. If you need it, you need it, right? Logistics Hub have pretty good range. I don't think there's much you can really card on that. That's going to do what it's going to do. Now, what's way more important is carding your fleets for when they're being in combat. I carded these 3 patrol fleets all a little bit differently. I had these on here, but I guess they came off. We'll look at the details of exactly. Specifically, I see a lot of people running blue cards and stuff. They're fine if you have them, I guess, but you don't want to be caught in combat with blue cards. Because this is the difference here. You're looking at almost 20,000 plus 25,000 difference of firepower. You're looking at that's almost a fourth of the fleet in itself just by going from blue to obviously gold cards, especially on patrols. I wouldn't expect. I would hope to at least see purple cards on here, and we're going to go over that in a second. This just shows a bigger difference. And then just a ton more HP. We're looking at 80,000, something like that. Difference in hit points. So it makes a huge, wildly big difference. They've actually updated this for any veterans in the game that haven't been following the updates. Plus 16% firepower and hit points. This used to be bonus to tactics. This is so much better. Like, it's going to be amazing to actually be crafting these and feeling the difference. And now we can kind of see the difference between the firepower of a purple card. And then this is the only character card at the moment that gives extra firepower. Definitely throw this on everything. It's a common card. You have no excuse. If you haven't been running missions, buy it. If you have been running missions, you should have a ton of these just hanging out anyways. The extra firepower hit points is much needed. It looks like small numbers. When you add it times 800, they really start adding up. So we have this firepower here. We're looking at 20,000 extra firepower. And we're looking at, once again, 50,000 hit points just for upgrading the purple cards. You're definitely going to want those. That makes all the difference. So just make sure you're really carding these. Don't skimp on this because you want to buy a bunch of minutiae and speed level through influence. This stuff really comes into play, and it's going to make a big difference when you're actually trying to defend yourself. Now what we have left, 2 of the big things that I think a lot of people will do is either completely give up or, not really try. I talked about dodging. That's definitely a valid thing. But if you're not dodging, if you feel like you're holding on and someone jumps here and they don't have bombers, talk to your alliance. Communication is a huge thing, part of defense. It's not a game mechanic, but it's definitely something you need to be aware of. Be like, hey guys, I'm being attacked. And if no one's responding, it more than likely isn't because, oh, we hate that guy. It's they didn't see it. Instead of just trying here in game, make sure you're going to your Discord. Make sure you're pinging people individually. Hey man, I'm getting attacked. Can we do anything about it? Obviously try not to be too annoying about it. If someone's already said no, like, don't do it. But reach out to your alliance members. That's what they're there for. A lot of times you guys will be settling kind of close to each other. See if, even if it's 3 hours or so, even if they have a decent amount of bombers, it's going to take a while to take down that. And this is a strategic point for the alliance. Don't limit yourself and be like, oh, I don't want to be annoying, etc. Call out for defense. The other biggest point to defense would be just don't settle on these if you're not comfortable yet. These strategic points are what we're going for. I can say as part of my alliance, I don't really care if you're back here in the green zone. We're kind of looking at this map a little bit bigger now. If you have stations back here, these are stations that aren't necessarily going to get bombed unless you're being ridiculous and you're calling people out. And maybe you'd really have to tempt someone to come all the way down and bring my fleets this huge trip down here and try to attack you. And the same thing goes for kind of like these inner areas. A lot of times these are low conflict zones. The best way to not be attacked is don't have something worth attacking. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize too. They'll get really paranoid and be like, "Oh, this is happening, this is happening." I'm not going to spend a lot of my extra time when I have other battles going on. I'm being attacked here on my GTs. These are the stuff I really care about. And just talking to people. For a lot of you new players, you may be getting attacked because someone thinks you're AFK and they're just trying to raid you, or they're just attacking you to, I don't know, if they want XP or for whatever crazy reason, right? Go ahead and message them in game and maybe find them on Discord as well. Hey man, can you spare me? Can you not attack me? That'd be really cool. I'm just trying to learn the game. I know I will. I know all my guys will back off at that point as long as you actually are playing. We don't mind. There's plenty of other targets. I'm not trying to sit here and ruin people's lives. And I think most of the people in Starborne so far have been like that. So definitely reach out, communicate. If you're really worried about being attacked, just don't build in these areas, or maybe work your way into it. Maybe take one later with your alliance, have your alliance backing. And then kind of use all these tips. Make sure you're carding. Definitely make sure you're carding. If you're really worried about, make sure you're stacking several stations, adding logistics hubs, adding missile batteries. Making sure you're having scan radiuses, you're probing things, you're spying things. Be really active. It's a game that a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's really slow or this or that. It's a huge amount of planning. It's a huge amount of using what resources you have and trying to get an edge on someone. So definitely try to use as many of these tips as you can. Hopefully you're going to survive this attack, and have a good one, guys.